In 2019, YouTube was caught violating the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies that are meant to serve as a smokescreen so they can dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. As such, for my own protection, it is my obligation to advise you that this video is not aimed at children. My target audience is not children. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Today, we are taking a look at the final story in the Season 24 trilogy, Terror of the Sontarans, released in September of 2015, written by Dan Starkey and John Dorney, and directed by Ken Bentley. Terror of the Sontarans once again stars Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor and Bonnie Langford as Melanie Mel Bush. Also featured in the cast is Dan Starkey. As always, there is a spoiler warning in place, and I may be because I may be discussing spoilers. Because I do these unscripted. So this is your only warning. If you want to go into the story blind, now's your chance to jump ship. And though I don't recommend it, because I don't recommend this story, Terror of the Sontarans is not a good story. Oh shoot, before I forget too, I have my fan on at the moment because middle of summer, it's kinda hot, so if you hear a little whirring in the background, that's what that is. There's a thunderstorm at the moment too, so you might also hear that. Anyway, as I was saying, Terror of the Sontarans, not a good story. And I remember being so excited to get to this one because, I don't know if I've said this before. I might have said it in unboxings, but I don't think I've ever said it in a review because I don't think they've ever come up in a review. Possibly when I reviewed Diary of River Song Series 6. Anyway, before getting into Big Finish and their audios, I was not a fan of the Sontarans. They were my least favorite Doctor Who monster. And I totally just lost the point of where I was going with that. No, now I remember. Yeah, I just never liked the Sontarans. It wasn't. And then I got into Big Finish, and I started really enjoying the Sontarans because I really enjoyed their stories. Most of what I've heard from the box sets, Classic Doctors, New Monsters Volume 1, The War Doctor Volume 3, The King of Sontar, which was a fourth Doctor adventure, was really good. But yeah, no, I just so enjoyed the Sontarans on audio. It really improved them in my eyes. And a lot of people might be thinking, but you like the two Doctors, as you say often enough. And here's the thing about that. I like the two Doctors in spite of the Sontarans. They are the weakest part of that story. Anyway, so, you can imagine my excitement when a Seventh Doctor Sontaran story, because the Seventh Doctor never met the Sontarans on TV. I believe there was a Virgin New adventure where they were the antagonists, but I don't read the VNAs, so. Anyway, I really don't want to talk about this story. So yeah, this is one of only two Seventh Doctor Sontaran stories. The other was one with Elizabeth Klein, which is a whole thing I'm not getting into at this moment. And also, if memory serves, I need to do some research into it, but I believe this is the first story written by Dan Starkey, who plays the new Who Sontarans, most notably Strax, and, he does a lot of creature voices for Big Finish, and he mainly plays the Sontarans, along with Christopher Ryan. And that being said, yeah, you can kind of tell. This story reads and plays out like it's someone's first story. Just the quality isn't quite there, and it's, I don't know how else to put that into words. It comes across as being someone's first story. And John Dorney is credited as a co-writer on this, and none of his influence is present here. When you listen to a John Dorney story, you can tell it's a John Dorney story. Also in part because of its quality. He is probably one of the most consistent writers Big Finish has. And none of that is here. In fact, I think more than anything, John Dorney was just an editor of some sort. I can't say for certain, but like, oh, what was it? Like, I'm sure he was there. Like, he looked over Starkey's drafts of the script and say, okay, this needs to be refined, maybe clean this up a little. And yeah, it feels. I think he might have been more an editor. Anyway, so what's the story? The Doctor and Mel arrive at a mining station where, the crew has disappeared, and all that's left are a couple prisoners. And, after the mining station became derelict, it was used as a Sontaran research center. And the Doctor and the Doctor and Mel find the last of the prisoners. And right off the bat here, this is... I feel like Sylvester McCoy's performance suffers here kind of a lot, Wow. I'm sorry. I listened to this story twice, and both times I didn't retain a lot of it. I should have done a third listen like I did with the first two stories, but ultimately that first listen, I didn't end up liking Terror of the Sontarans, and it made the second listen so much more painful. So yeah, I'm going off of memory, and the memory is fading, so I apologize. Anyway, as I was saying, this was where the Doctor and Mel arrived. It was a mining base, and then it became a Sontaran research center, and then the Sontarans disappeared, which has sort of forced a Sontaran task force to show up and investigate what's going on. And right off the bat, here's the problems with the Sontarans in this story. They're too distinct. They stand out from each other too well. Because here's the thing. The Sontarans are a clone race. Really, the only major differences between Sontarans are their rank. You can have minor differences in personality, but I feel like the differences here between the Sontarans are too extreme. And here's the thing before someone says that, because I enjoy Strax should be the exception, never the rule. Which I think is part of the problem. Was Strax introduced in 2015? Not important. That because Starkey was playing such a unique Sontaran, he might have put that into his writing. Also, the Doctor feels kind of wasted here because, after the beginning when the Doctor and Mel split up, the Doctor kind of just vanishes from the story. And it's not like a VNA where even when he's not there, you can still feel his presence, where you still know he's working to a plan of some sort. He disappears. He only shows up sparingly up until the end. But he's missing, and it feels empty. Mel is more or less the same at this point, she's kind of just going on from where she was in We Are the Daleks and the Warehouse, but it's lesser somehow, I feel like she has more of the because of the situation she's put in, she has more of the pitfalls of her weaknesses from, when she was a companion on TV, from seasons 23 and 24. Never to the point of the screaming, thank God, but yeah, she does feel much closer to how she was portrayed on TV than the very strong, confident, powerful woman that the audios have made her since then. Speaking of which, the side characters are also really unimpressive. Aside from the Sontarans, which I talked about, there were prisoners at this research station, test subjects that the Sontarans were experimenting on. There was there's no character to them. They're all just gimmicks. There's a human-alien hybrid. They never say what kind of alien, who is, I don't know how to extremely flexible. If I could think of a word to describe it, because they never really explain it, he is triple jointed. There is a telepath of some sort, and I'm also forgetting what race she is. Her name is Tethnica, And then there is the very boisterous military type, the whole the whole sort of, what's the word? Victorian chivalrous military soldier type, the modern major general, for lack of a better explanation. And like I said, there's no real character to them. They just feel like gimmicks. Oh, I forgot about the giant alien shrimp, the crustacean. Yeah, because he shows up and then he leaves and doesn't show up again until the end of the story. Because this story kind of drops plot points and then when they need to be relevant again, brings them back. But, it's like, but you always forget about them, It's like, hey, by the way, remember this? Because, yeah, this is relevant now. Which is a shame because there is some interesting concepts here, What happened to the miners at this station, the original miners, was that they somehow all went insane, and those who didn't evacuate sort of killed each other off. And then it happened to the Sontarans. And, when this new Sontaran task force arrives to investigate this research station, you also see it happening to them, and there's just no tension to it, It's like, it could have been interesting had it been played more to the horror side, but it never goes there. And also the fact that there is another threat working in the background, which reveals itself in the climax, it also really kind of diminishes the threat of the Sontarans. The Sontarans are never played threatening here. They're never played comedic, thankfully, but they're never played to their full potential. Never once was I intimidated by them. Yeah, and like I said, I didn't really get into specifics with this story. Terror of the Sontarans is just disappointing. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but it is definitely weaker. I'd put it at below average and give it a 4 out of 10. And, which brings me now, since we're at the end, to my ranking of the Season 24 trilogy. Overall, I'd rank it as Terror of the Sontarans is the weakest, We Are the Daleks, and then The Warehouse as my favorite. Objectively, We Are the Daleks is the better story, but just personally, I enjoyed The Warehouse so much more. And that's been my review of Terror of the Sontarans and the Season 24 trilogy. What's coming next? I'm not quite sure. On Security Kitchen Productions, I am still working on the Romance of Crime audiobook, so output might still be slow. I will try to do something much sooner now that I have a working setup. In the meantime, remember to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload, and in the description box below, you'll find the link to my Ko-fi where you can support the channel, and you'll find the link to my Twitter where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and I'll see you guys next time.